The Human Essence, Chapter 3. We are in fact convinced that if we are ever to have pure knowledge of anything, we must get rid of the body and contemplate things by themselves, with the soul by itself. Socrates. 1. The essence is the foundation of a human being. In the creation of a new human, the first thing that advanced creators/parents do is to provide this person with a body and a unique free-willed essence. This quote-unquote essence constitutes the actuality of the self, everything that this newly created person will become. The essence establishes uniqueness and individuality and, together with a likewise personally unique physical body, distinguishes each of us from the rest of the human race in the universe. The responsibility falls upon the creators to ensure that this new human being is free to fulfill the purpose of its creation. This quote-unquote purpose is to experience life and to learn and decide what brings happiness to the unique, free-willed human being. A big part of this happiness is being valued as an individual apart from everyone and everything else in the universe, and only a human essence has the potential to fulfill this purpose, or to experience continual and lasting personal happiness. 2. Our essence is an advanced recording device. The human essence can be compared to a highly developed memory recording and storage device. Advanced human creators exist in a more technologically advanced society and utilize new blank essences to create other human beings in order to continue human life throughout the universe. Because the essence records and stores the experiences generated by sensory receptors of sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch, it requires a body in order to become operational. All human beings, advanced and otherwise, have an essence that is identical to every other when it is created. The only difference comes from the variety of experiences recorded upon it in the course of each individual discovering their happiness in a human body. The recording and storage of our free-willed choices as we use our body to respond to the environment in which we find ourselves allows for a recollection of events. This quote-unquote recollection is an actual collection of what we record through our senses. It provides us with the ability to recall the experiences that give each of us our individuality and uniqueness. Because we are free-willed life forms, nothing is pre-programmed in our essence. During our lifetimes, i.e., when our essence is inside a physical body, we are exposed to various environments in which we can use our free will and the functions of our body to create our own unique experiences. We record these experiences and play them back by using the sensory organs of our physical body. Our individuality is created by the wide variety of experiences we are exposed to and how we each choose to respond to them. Only when our essence enters a physical body do we become a living human. We need a body to generate our experiences and an essence to record them, so that the body can play them back for us later and thereby express our unique individuality. This quote-unquote playback, recollection, allows us to enjoy our individuality because each of us is the only one in the universe who responds to our environment exactly the way that we do. Without either part, our essence or our body, we are not a living human being. Our current imperfect body can be compared to a highly advanced computer with its own internal memory and processor, the brain. This quote-unquote computer contains the software applications of sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch. Our essence can be compared to a separate external hard drive that acts like a memory bank with an infinite storage capacity. It also has its own source of power apart from the power provided by the computer, our imperfect body. When connected to the computer, our body, this powerful recording/storage device, our essence, is always on and records everything that the computer does. If the computer or any of its components fail, i.e. the body dies, the essence will be always available with a perfect recollection of all previous activity. Even though the essence will always work perfectly, the body in which it is placed does not have to work perfectly. If the computer is defective, it doesn't matter how good the quote-unquote hard drive is. The computer can only function within the limitations allowed by its efficiency and lack of defects. Until a perfect computer, a perfect human body, is created that will never fail, other fallible computers, imperfect bodies, are made available to operate with the memory recorded on the external hard drive, our essence. When this quote-unquote external hard drive is finally plugged into a perfect quote-unquote computer that will never fail, the new perfect computer will be able to use the memories that were recorded by all the previous old computers, plus create its own new memories. Although the fallible computers, the imperfect bodies, can be constructed of materials that wear out over time and can fail, the separate hard drive, the essence, is constructed of materials that never wear out. Whether the computer, the body, is fallible or perfect, the external hard drive, the essence, is programmed to never fail to do what it was intended to do. It was created and programmed to record and store the memories created by the computer, the body, in which it operates. Our current technology allows us to create all types of computers, but only from materials that are subject to wear and tear and that break down over time. All of the known elements, which make up the components of our computers as well as the material of our physical bodies, slowly give off their energy over time and eventually break down into their basic elementary forms. For example, a computer of today is actually an assembly of basic elements bound together by their energy levels to create the metal, plastic, and other materials from which it is constructed. Over time, the bonds that hold the elements together lose their strength and break down. These bonds can also be destroyed by external interactions such as the application of heat, fire, or solvents. This is what modern science calls the second law of thermodynamics. The quote-unquote law mandates that all things not in equilibrium experience increasing entropy, a measure of deterioration or disorder over time. 3. The essence is made of undiscovered elements. There are elements in the universe that our scientists do not know exists, as they have not been discovered. These elements are formed from equally unknown atoms and make up the molecules that form the human essence. As stated, this essence is the most advanced recording device found anywhere in the universe. Its ability to record and store information is as infinite as the universe itself. The bonds created by these unknown elements in forming the essence do not deteriorate over time. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to these elements. Once these elements are combined, their bonds become just as indestructible as each element itself. Only advanced human creators know what these elements are and how to use them. The molecules that form our essence are pre-programmed to store recorded information, which, again, contains the sum and substance of our individual existence. The highly specialized, currently unknown, elements that make up the molecules forming the essence are what provide the capacity to store and play back an infinite amount of information. These specialized elements allow the structure of the essence to expand its memory capacity continually and infinitely. Thus, it can be best described in modern terms as a perpetual memory disk of infinite capacity. No matter how much information is recorded on it, its makeup and structure perform endless functions of storage, categorization, and defragmentation for future recall. This activity takes place by the essence's constant energy levels replicating themselves, very much like our muscle cells replicate when the need arises. However, the elements that form the essence expand on a subatomic energy level and always maintain the same mass, whereas the cells that make up muscle, for example, replicate themselves and create more mass. Although modern scientists would love to know how this is done, they will not be given this information for the same reason they have not yet discovered all of the elements of the universe. This reason will be explained later. The elements of the essence do not reflect light. Therefore, the essence remains as invisible to the human eye as the elements that make up the atmosphere of Earth. It cannot be photographed, nor is its mass affected by the gravitational pull of any celestial body. In other words, it is weightless and remains at a constant mass no matter in what part of the universe it is found. 4. The evidence of the existence of the essence. Science has failed to make any meaningful progress in understanding the human mind. This is because it doesn't consider the possibility that the physical human brain is not solely responsible for the ability of a human being to reason, dream, and imagine, which all offer evidence of the existence of the essence. Science stubbornly rejects the possibility that something might enter the brain region upon birth that is not only responsible for the body's ability to start breathing, but is also completely responsible for consciousness and for our partially accessible subconscious mind. Science, with all of its pride and glory in its research and observation, rejects the existence of a separate human essence that exists apart from the human body. However, if science would just consider the possibility of the existence of the essence, then it would be able to solve all the other mysteries of the mind. Because science doesn't accept the possibility, we will solve the mysteries without the help of scientific observation and study. 5. Birth supports the existence of an essence. Let's take a closer look at how our essence reacts with our body. The reader must now use the human ability to reason, wonder, create, and imagine. One must also possess the ambition to understand something that he or she has never considered before. Let's begin our exploration and understanding of the mysteries of life with the miracle of birth. When a body is inside of the womb, it performs automatic functions that are controlled by the elements that make up the body and the womb. The heart, for example, develops before the brain and pumps continuously as its muscles are instructed by the DNA patterns it is given. As the fetus progresses and develops, it remains in a coma-like state, unconscious of its surroundings. The movements of the fetus felt by the mother are natural reflexes associated with the muscles and nerves of the body as it develops. Just as one cannot stop the automatic reflexes of the body outside of the womb, sometimes occurring even in a dead body, a fetus's reflexes inside the womb are likewise controlled by the body of either the developing fetus or the mother's own body. It is not a conscious act of the fetus's brain, because the heart begins to pump before the brain has even developed. This supports the reality that a fetus is not a complete and conscious human being until the essence enters the body upon birth. Any time a movement is made, from the pumping of the heart to the sucking of the thumb inside the womb, a chemical change takes place. Elements react with each other to produce the result determined by the DNA instructions of the body. Therefore, we can conclude that every action or reaction that takes place in the fetus is the product of a chemical reaction, or when one element reacts with another, sustained in the environment of the mother's womb. Science has appropriately theorized that DNA provides the regulations and instructions to tell the molecules of the body what to do, and that the plan each of these molecules follows is incorporated into the makeup of the DNA. However, what DNA does not tell the body, and what it is not pre-programmed to do, is to mandate when and how we breathe. A developing fetus does not have the function of breathing, but a living life form can control it at will with its conscious mind. 6. How the essence enters the body. In all life forms that require oxygen to survive, breathing is a chemical change that takes place when certain muscles are told what to do by the elements that are programmed to produce the chemical change. To make the muscles of the diaphragm move, a chemical action must take place in the same manner as it does to make the same muscles move when we laugh. The difference is, the DNA instructions of our body do not control the chemical reaction that moves our diaphragm. Our essence does. Science has found it difficult to determine why oxygen-dependent life forms begin to breathe once the infant's body has left the mother's womb. It has not ascertained what causes human beings to breathe, because it has not yet discovered what elements participate in producing these reactions, nor will it ever. It does not understand the makeup of our essence. Our essence has the ability to control breathing. We can stop breathing anytime we want. We can willingly force the stoppage of air in and out of our lungs until we pass out. If we pass out, however, our DNA programming continues to regulate our breathing. The essence, though extremely powerful when in a perfect body, has a very difficult time controlling any part of an imperfect human body that is being controlled by the perfunctorily set DNA patterns. These patterns were already pre-programmed with instructions of how to perform before the essence entered the human body. One can stop breathing simply by the will of the mind. This is possible because the essence is present. But it is impossible for one to will the heart to stop beating. Nevertheless, in some instances of enhanced mental focus, the power of the essence can indeed mildly affect other parts of the body that are normally controlled solely by the human body's DNA. The body has no power to control the essence, but the essence can control the body. The essence and the body are each separate compilations of element structured to perform different functions for the human being. Unfortunately, the current human brain is incapable of allowing the essence to perform to its full capacity, or better, to perform to its full potential. In our current imperfect bodies, the essence acts more subconsciously by itself than it does consciously with the incapable brain. Upon our initial primordial creation, our essence was placed in a perfect, quintessential human body. Later on in our development as a human being, and for a very wise purpose, our essence is repeatedly placed in imperfect mortal bodies that get sick, grow old, and die. With our current limited knowledge, and because of our inability to recollect at will what is recorded on our essence, we understand the essence's entrance into a body as quote-unquote birth, and its exit from a body as quote-unquote death. 7. The essence is naturally attracted to the body. The matter from which the essence is created is naturally attracted to the body that is created for it. As far as current scientific understanding goes, magnetism works by the attraction of negative and positive forces. If the negative end of a magnet is placed near the positive end of another magnet, both will come together naturally without any outside force. To gain a better understanding of how the essence enters the body, and taking into consideration what science seems to have theorized, we need to think of the human brain as having a negative charge and the essence as having a positive charge. When a newborn, negatively charged body comes out of the womb, the closest essence, positively charged, will find its way to the brain once a pathway has been cleared. However, because the essence is made up of elements that do not have the limitations of the known elements, it can pass through much of the matter of which the materials of Earth are constructed. For this reason, the essence can find its way into the circulatory system the moment a baby is born, even if the birth takes place underwater. The only known element that remains impervious to the molecules of the essence is lead. The rest of known matter does not inhibit the ability of the essence to travel where it needs to go. Because the elements from which the essence is created have similar characteristics to gaseous elements in our atmosphere, these elements can enter the newborn body the same way oxygen does, through the nasal or mouth cavities. Our essence then travels from the lungs through the circulatory system to the brain. The imperfect human body is constructed so that the essence can only get to where it needs to be through the circulatory system, though it would be able to pass through the elements that make up the skull and brain in a perfect body. Once the body dies, the essence leaves the same way it came in, exiting with the last breath. This occurs when and because the dying brain no longer has a negative charge strong enough to keep the positively charged essence attracted to it. However, the essence cannot pass through the cells of the mother's imperfect body into the fetus because of the way her body reacts when pregnant. For illustration purposes only, the mother's body, in effect, becomes positively charged in relation to the baby's negatively charged body. The positive charge of the pregnant mother repels the positively charged essence. When she is no longer pregnant, the mother's body returns back to its former negatively charged state. Some might argue that if the mother's body becomes positively charged when pregnant, then her own positively charged essence would be repelled by the magnetic change. One must note, however, that the miracle of pregnancy and birth is being presented in this book the only way that our imperfect brains can comprehend it. Quote-unquote magnetism and quote-unquote positive/negative forces were invented by imperfect humans to explain things according to their very limited understanding. The use of these terms in this book is completely illustrative. What is important is that the reader understands what is taking place according to his or her ability to reason and comprehend. 8. Memories of the essence differ from memories of the brain. The essence never changes. There are major differences, however, between the physical body we have now and the body that an advanced human being There are major differences, however, between the physical body we have now and the body an advanced human being possesses. Throughout this book, our current body will continue to be described as an imperfect body, and the most advanced human body possible as the perfect body. Later, the differences between the two will be described in more detail. For now, we need to focus on how the essence reacts with each. The perfect advanced brain, as a part of the perfect body, does not record experience. Experience is only recorded in the essence. In the imperfect body, however, experiences are recorded both on the brain structure and in the essence. Because of the quote-unquote double recording, the way we recall experiences, remember, is much more difficult in the imperfect body than it is in a perfect one. 9. Energy is required to produce memories. In an imperfect body, recalling stored memories requires different levels of energy that are generated by the body. If we want to remember what we ate for breakfast this morning, for example, then less energy is used than what would be required to remember what we ate for breakfast yesterday. Remembering the meal from breakfast 2 days ago requires even more energy. There are some memories, however, that we can recall rather easily with very limited expenditure of our energy, even in an imperfect body. The more frequently the experience is repeated, the less energy our brain uses in recalling it later. This happens because of the way our brain compartmentalizes repeated experiences upon recording them. In addition, as information is stored, if we spend more energy in concentrating on the experience and forcing it to be recorded, then less energy will be required to recall it. Consequently, the more the experience affects us, the more traumatic, the easier it is to recall. For example, all those who were old enough to be aware that the World Trade Center in New York City was attacked on September 11th, 2001, are able to recall with very little effort what they were doing at the moment they heard of the attack. However, they cannot as easily recall what they were doing a year after the attack in 2002 on the same day. With our current, less developed, and poorly utilized brains, the greater the energy it takes to record the experience, the less energy it takes to recall it. Therefore, we are forced to consciously concentrate the cerebral expenditure of energy on something if we want to retain it in the forefront of our brain's memory banks and be able to recall it easily in the future. 10. Energy levels of the essence are constant. Unlike our less developed brain, our essence is set up in such a way that it records all experiences on equal energy levels. The structure of the unknown elements that comprise the human essence is always equal and stable. In this balanced environment, there is very little expenditure of energy in recalling memories. In the perfect body, we can recall any experience as if it happened just a moment ago. The way that our imperfect brain records experience and gets in the way of our ability to instantly recall memories is very different from the ease in which it can be done with the perfect brain, which does not record experience. The perfect brain's only function is to take the energy levels stored on the essence, our memories, and allow the sensory receptors of sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch to react with the energy, thereby giving the advanced being an incredibly detailed recollection of every experience. Our recollection of past events will be remembered, played back, upon our desire to remember them with the exact same physical sensations that were produced when the event first transpired. 11. Energy levels of the brain fluctuate. Let's attempt to simplify it even further. A different level of energy is produced from each experience. These quote-unquote levels of energy are what we consider our quote-unquote emotions. We prioritize our emotions by the level of energy we use in experiencing them. For example, let's assume that the energy levels of all experience fall between 1 and 10, with 10 being the constant energy level that is required for our brain to recall an experience. Because we eat breakfast every morning, we do not expend a lot of energy trying to remember what we are eating. So let's assign the number 2 to the experience of eating breakfast. When a loved one dies, however, we expend a tremendous amount of emotional energy experiencing the event. So let's assign the death of a loved one the number 7. On the day that we learn of the death of our father, we eat something for breakfast. Our brain records both experiences at a level 7 and a level 2, respectively, according to the energy levels produced by each experience, and as allowed by the imperfect brain's capacity. When recall is attempted, by illustration, it would only take an energy level of 3 to remember our father's death, but a level of 8 to recall what we ate for breakfast the same day. In contrast, all experiences are stored exactly the same on our essence at the highest, most stable energy level, because the essence has its own energy source that does not fluctuate as the imperfect brain does. It always records the experience in a balanced state of equilibrium. This supports its immunity to the second law of thermodynamics, the law that maintains that the entropy, or breakdown, of an isolated system not in equilibrium will tend to increase over time. In other words, an essence will never break down and will always record every experience perfectly. This is due to the stability and equilibrium of the essence's perfect energy and environment. There are some anomalies of the physical brain structure, however, which do allow some people to have a near photographic memory, but it is impossible for any less advanced brain to be as fully photographic as an advanced brain. Nevertheless, the fact that we have developed varying degrees of ability to recount what we experience supports the conclusion that the human brain is indeed capable of much, much more than we currently are able to utilize. 12. One day, we will all have a perfect body. The more we advance, even with our imperfect bodies, the more we will understand the workings of the human brain and consequently be able to use it more efficiently. Keep in mind that advanced societies of humans who know how to create a human essence have always existed, and human beings inhabiting perfect bodies have always been. There has never been a time when one of these societies has not been found somewhere in the infinite universe. Furthermore, as more human beings are created and go through the stages of their own development, the number of these advanced civilizations increases. Eventually, each of us ends up with a perfect body that can react in perfection with our essence. In other words, in a few thousand years from now, we will be the advanced societies of the future. With the technology and information that will be available then, some will choose to be parents and continue to perpetuate the human race. These creators will do this by first creating a human essence and then creating a body in which this essence can fulfill the purpose for its creation. Again, this purpose is to record life's experiences and store them as memories at emotional energy levels, thus producing the sensation of happiness. These advanced humans choosing to be creators will have the knowledge to create other solar systems. And in these new solar systems, new humans will compile experiences until they, too, become as advanced as their creators. 13. The unique ability to imagine our future. As we accept the fact that undiscovered, advanced human societies exist in other parts of the universe, it's not hard to imagine other human beings who have progressed far beyond the point we're at upon this planet. Just picture how our own mortal ancestors would have viewed us in their day if they had seen what we know and understand today. Surely, they would have seen us as far more superior and advanced to themselves, at least in terms of quote-unquote worldly knowledge and technology. Take, for example, the musicians of early Greek societies, known for their musical advancements of the time. Could they have even imagined that one day their descendants would be carrying around a device the size of an apple slice, pun intended for the Apple iPod, that could play literally thousands of songs, songs that were masterfully recorded by instruments that didn't even exist at that time. Likewise, it shouldn't be very difficult for us to imagine a future where these exact same songs and millions of others like them are no longer recorded upon a device that we carry outside of our body. Instead, the songs, melodies, and rhythms will be recorded and played at will inside of our heads. This will be accomplished by the sensory receptors of our brain cells being connected to the audio nerves or our ears, which will allow us to listen to the music from inside. When we have brains that are properly developed, we will not only be able to hear the words playing in our heads, but we will also hear the sounds of the instruments that create the harmony and rhythm. This will bring the songs to life and cause the joy we experience by listening to them. At that point, what need would there be for a 21st century made iPod when the technology and know-how exist to record any song we hear and play it back anytime we desire just by thinking about it? It's easy to imagine these things. They seem very reasonable, especially in light of all that has been discovered about the brain and how nanotechnology works. Enormous amounts of information can now be stored on tiny objects such as the integrated circuitry of the modern iPod music player. Despite this, modern scientists can be among the most ignorant and hardened against the true reality of the existence of our human essence, the ultimate recording and playback device ever created. 14. Dreams are accessed memories of the essence. One realm of evidence for the existence of the essence, in which science has failed to make any significant conclusions, is that of dreams. Science speculates that dreaming is necessary and vital to our emotional health. It proposes that one who does not dream might descend into some sort of insanity. In reality, however, this is not the case. A more comprehensive understanding of what a dream actually is and how it takes place in the mind will show that those who dream less are emotionally more at peace with themselves than those who dream more. And those who take their dreams too seriously often become more out of touch with reality than those who do not. Dreaming and imagining are simply the random recollection of stored memories from either or both our essence and our physical brain that our conscious mind is attempting to organize into reasonable and recognizable experience. Unless some outside manipulation is taking place, such as hypnosis, all dreams materialize from the random, fragmented parts of our actual experiences in our recent or long ago past. When our imperfect brain attempts to organize our memories of past experiences into something we can consciously understand, our dreams become subconscious compilations of completely unrelated instances we have a hard time explaining or figuring out. A perfect night's sleep consists of one in which we go to sleep, and before we know it, we wake up the next morning, not having had any dreams or restless periods, just pure, unadulterated, deep sleep. As stated above, those who currently experience more emotional stability and peace dream less and are able to sleep more soundly. Although dreams are not necessary, they are an inescapable part of how our imperfect brain functions. This is because the brain, our imperfect body, cannot consciously access or control the subconscious, the essence. When we dream, we are not completely in a subconscious state. Our brain is working hard during a dream as well as are the rest of the sensory systems of the body. As we dream, our conscious mind tries to make sense out of the dream, causing an expenditure of energy that takes away from a good night's sleep. 15. We all need to sleep. Sleeping is our brain's way of telling our subconscious to be quiet and get some needed rest, which, of course, the essence will never do. The imperfect brain, being a major part of the imperfect body, needs rest because of the constant imbalance of energy fluctuations. In other words, the brain can become as exhausted as any other part of the body if it does not receive as much energy as it uses up, or if it is underused and atrophied. As the imperfect brain attempts to rest, it rejects the continual wavelengths of the energy levels, memories, coming from the essence. When this occurs, the person's capability to reason is not fully utilized, and therefore it cannot organize the memories into reasonable experiences. Thus, the fragmented and nonsensical experiences associated with dreaming are created. Insomniacs, those who find it difficult to fall asleep, have a hard time getting the brain to stop thinking about their present realities. It's good advice for these people to quote-unquote count sheep jumping over a fence. This is why. If one can concentrate, direct the energy levels of the imperfect brain on something that is not very realistic, sheep continually jumping over a fence in perfect order, but makes perfect sense, counting 1, 2, 3, makes sense, then the energy it takes to reason will shut down much more readily. If insomniacs pick up a fictional novel to read at bedtime, and they have already determined that they will experience no reality in the story, therefore they do not expend energy trying to reason and figure it out, they will fall asleep quite easily. This happens because our essence does not require sleep or a quote-unquote recharge of our energy levels. When a person concentrates on something that reason does not have to deal with, fantasies, the energy level produced by thought is automatically diverted to the part of us that has no need for any quote-unquote recharge from our body, the essence. This allows the part of us that reasons and needs to rest, our imperfect brain, the ability to do so. 16. As we dream, our ability to reason is inhibited, yet the essence remains alert. Most people have similar dreams. For example, many of us have dreamed that we can fly. Some of us might have envisioned ourselves as a falling leaf drifting gently down to the earth. Many of us have dreamed of attending school half naked. We might have even dreamed that we saw a one-eyed giant living on another planet. All of us have had nightmares in which monsters have invaded our dream world, to threaten our life. We have the potential of dreaming impossibilities that make no sense to our reality. So, how can this be? Did we once fly? Were we once a leaf? Or did we actually see a one-eyed giant? Did all of us make the same mistake of not getting fully dressed to attend school? Are there such life forms as monsters that chase us and threaten our lives? As we are dreaming, our ability, mental capacity, to reason is greatly inhibited, along with many of our along with many of the other functions of our imperfect body. Therefore, we can dream some very weird and nonsensical things. Dreaming is a product of our imperfect brain's inability to control our subconscious mind, where our human essence continues to exist as it always has since we became a conscious, fully living human being, without the need to sleep or the need of energy from our body. The essence has its own source of energy, much like the charged battery of an iPod, only the quote-unquote batteries of the essence never run out. Therefore, as the quote-unquote always turned on energy from the subconscious attempts to interact with the brain, which has been forced by the need to rest to turn off its energy in a state of sleep, reason cannot play a part in the conscious recollection or understanding of the mental images that are produced. Keep in mind, quote-unquote reason is an energy expenditure of the brain, not of the essence. Because our imperfect brain only allows us to remember fragments of our past experience, it tries to make sense of the energy, memories, affecting it when we are asleep. This becomes our dreams. 17. We daydream when we are not in need of sleep. The natural phenomenon of dreaming also takes place while we are fully conscious, in what we consider quote-unquote daydreaming. When we make no conscious effort to shut our brain off through sleep, we are continually affected by either the energy of our brain as we reason our way through life, or by the constant energy of our essence. Without any willingness on our part, memories from our subconscious seep into our conscious mind. Again, this occurs because the energy of our essence cannot be turned off. Our imperfect brain, therefore, creates the random, nonsensical imaginations that come into our mind during daydreaming the same way it creates the dreams when we are trying to sleep. Daydreaming occurs when we are not fully utilizing our brain's current energy levels. In other words, we are not allowing our current environment to affect our conscious need to reason. Stated another way, if our brain is not engaged in interacting with the world around us and we stop quote-unquote thinking, we will begin dreaming. If our imperfect brain is in need of sleep, the moment we stop using it to reason, we will drift off into a state of sleep. If it does not need sleep, we will begin daydreaming. 18. The blind do not dream in visual imagery. Those who are blind from birth do not claim to have the same dreams as fully sighted people. When asked to describe their dreams, they find it very difficult, almost impossible, to relay a description of them in any type of detail that a sighted person would understand. Science has concluded that people who have been blind from birth do not experience visual imagery during their dreams. How can science conclude this? How is a congenitally blind person, blind since birth, going to be able to describe something to another person who has experienced it in a completely different way? For example, if a blind person actually does see the color red in a dream, how can it be described to a person who has been taught what to call quote-unquote red in the sighted person's visual experience? The blind person would have no reference point from which to draw a proper description. The fact is, a blind person wouldn't be able to describe a visual experience even if one occurred in a dream, Because blind people have visual experiences stored in their essence, they have dreams they cannot explain in their current experience. What they can do, however, is attempt to organize the random expressions of their stored memories into reasonable experiences that make sense to them, thus causing them to dream. 19. All near-death experiences are dreams. Consider this scenario. Let's say that a man having an operation wakes up after the operation and can vividly recall things about the operation that would seemingly be impossible to recall if he did not have a quote-unquote out-of-body experience. Let's suppose that the man remembered seeing the surgeon flapping his arms at times to stretch his muscles and loosen the stress and tension in his arms during the surgery. Let's assume, as is customary, that there was a sheet draped between the man's range of view and the surgeon. Having his vision blocked would seemingly eliminate the possibility that the man became conscious or semi-conscious during the procedure and was then able to see the surgeon's behavior. Also, assume that the man was conscious before he was wheeled into the operating room, and that he met with the surgeon before being put to sleep. Just as we dream when we are asleep, a person dreams while their physical brain is undergoing a traumatic event. The person creates the dream from the traumatic experience itself and from the stored memories that affect the unconscious mind. When awakened from the trauma, the brain attempts to organize the recorded memories into reasonable experience. During any operation, for example, though the imperfect brain is affected by the anesthesia, the essence is not. Although the man's eyes are closed, there are still energy patterns of smell, sound, taste, and touch that are entering the man's sensory receptors and being recorded upon his essence. One's eyes can be closed and another person in close proximity can give a distinct groan or yawn while stretching and moving their arms. This action causes a discernible release of energy and is then recognized for what it is, a man stretching. When our physical brain is put to sleep either artificially or naturally, the power of our essence continues to record any and all experience created in the surrounding area. If the surgeon had on rubber boots, for example, the man lying on the gurney does not need to actually see the boots to know they're rubber. He might deduce the reality by hearing the sound the boots make on the floor, which creates a sound that the man recognizes as rubber on floor, or by the distinct smell of the rubber itself. All near-death experiences are dreams. 20. There are no true, quote-unquote, out-of-body experiences. During any normal dream sequence, we routinely have a quote-unquote out-of-body experience. We are actually viewing ourselves going through whatever dream event we are having. We always perceive the dream as if we are viewing our own body performing the actions of the dream. We do not dream using the eyes of our own body in the dream. We participate in dreams as a third person viewing our own actions. There is no difference between an out-of-body experience one might have in a dream and the experience one has who believes he or she has died and come back to life. The true reality is that once the essence leaves the body, there are no sensory receptors working to record experience. Thus, there can be no true, quote-unquote, out-of-body experience, as some believe. The essence does not necessarily have to leave the body immediately when the heart stops or when the imperfect brain stops functioning. But when it does leave the body, then, and only then, can a person truly be pronounced dead. And at that point, there is no way for the individual to record a literal out-of-body experience. Fortunately for the human race, one day we will never dream again. Subconscious and conscious thought will not exist. Instead, all thought and experience will be perfectly stored and perfectly controlled and accessed by our free will through the power of our essence that resides in a perfect human body. But for now, we have to dream and imagine, then use our reason to figure out what is real and what is not. 21. The ability to dream, imagine, and reason. The difference between the way humans dream, imagine, and reason is the mental state in which they do these things. We dream in an unconscious state, such as sleep, or in a state in which we place our mental thoughts outside the realm of our current reality, such as daydreaming while we are supposed to be working. The difference between dreaming and using imagination is that imagining is a deliberate mental process, while dreaming is an involuntary mental process that begins in our mind randomly. While both dreams and imagination are often artful, whimsical, and associated with relaxed thinking process, reasoning, on the other hand, stresses our mental capacity to its limit. The process of reasoning or figuring things out is simply utilizing the process of imagination, or better, dreaming up a way to solve a problem by concentrating a proportionately greater amount of energy on the thought than we would while actually imagining or dreaming. The mental energy used to reason is much more demanding than that which is needed to dream or imagine. This is why some people can't reason as well as others. It is not that their human essence is any less quote-unquote human, but rather that their particular imperfect brain might not be capable of producing the quote-unquote mental energy needed to reason appropriately. The genetically inherited imperfect brain can only produce the quote-unquote mental energy provided by the instructions passed on from its parents. Our widely differing abilities to use our brains are dependent upon the physical makeup of our individual brains. Due to genetic differences, some people have the capability of reasoning much more quickly and efficiently than others. This says nothing of who we are, however, because if the individual essence of a slow-learning person was placed in a body where the brain functioned more proficiently, they would be just as quote-unquote smart as everyone else. The degrees of so-called quote-unquote intelligence found among human beings have nothing to do with the essence, but all to do with the physical limitations of the imperfect body. 22. Some memories not part of our current reality. All of us imagine at one time or another. Many of us have experienced the insecurity of going to school on the first day and wondering if we were going to fit in, thus accounting for our dream of attending school partially dressed. And there isn't a monster imagined that doesn't have its body parts taken from an animal that we have seen or are aware of in our experienced reality. It's easy to imagine a quote-unquote kangaphant Just think of an elephant that stands on its hind legs, has short front legs and a pouch with a baby kangaphant tucked inside. Now picture it with big shark-like teeth. Some have noticed a leaf falling from a tree and wondered what it must feel like to be a leaf and fall slowly, gently down to the earth. We've seen birds fly with uninhibited freedom in the sky and imagined what it would be like to be a bird. Given that we can imagine these things, it is logical that there is an experience locked in our subconscious mind, essence, of a time when we actually could fly. And there is. It was in the advanced world where we came from, where technology exists that we have yet to discover. The point is, there are some memories stored in a part of us that are not a conscious part of our current reality. Although our brain is incapable of accessing these subconscious quote-unquote stored memories upon demand, when we relax our minds and begin the process of dreaming or imagining, we access this unconscious realm and attempt to organize what we retrieve into a part of our current reality through reasoning. 23. Delusional realities are self-induced. One of the biggest dilemmas of our human experience, therefore, takes place within our own minds. The problem occurs because we are incapable of determining exactly when our brain is using its own energy to reason a solution to its environmental situations versus when we are actually dreaming. As a result, we can be led into a delusional reality that is not shared by anyone else but ourselves. The conclusions we come up with by quote-unquote daydreaming exist only in our own mind, unless, of course, we are successful at convincing others that our dreams are reality. Our current reality can be especially distorted by our dreams when we convince ourselves that we dream, either in a state of sleep or when we are fully awake, is real experience. As we ponder our unrealistic dreams and use our unique ability to reason, we try to formulate some kind of order to make our dreams fit into our reality. This distorts what is really happening in our environment into a convoluted form of our own unrealistic world. A work that defines and delineates each and every human mental aberration known, such as ESP, superstitions, placebo effect, etc., would be voluminous and continually incomplete because of the differing circumstances in which the mind phenomena is experienced by each individual person. By applying common sense and reason, the reader will be able to see the similarities between most mental anomalies, both real and not. For an example, we will discuss a few below. 24. We all hear quote-unquote voices in our heads. Some people with mental disabilities, fragile minds, express their dreams and imaginations as their conscious mind perceives them, without having the ability to utilize their reason to form them into rational thoughts. Others hear voices in their heads, or perceive that they are communicating with someone or something outside of their own body. In reality, these people are limited genetically in the use of their ability to reason and cannot make the distinction between current reality and stored memories. As explained, the energy level of the essence is constant and does not fluctuate as the brain's does. When our conscious mind has energy fluctuations, or better, ebbs at a lower wavelength of energy, the consistent higher energy of the essence provides the quote-unquote thoughts, energy, that come to our mind. In these instances, because we are completely conscious, our mind interprets stored memories as current thoughts, as our imperfect brain tries to make sense out of them. This is the best way to describe the quote-unquote voices in our head. Here's an example. If we leave our car keys somewhere and forget where we have put them, the memory is still stored in our brain of where we put them, but just at a much lower energy level than the level at which it was stored in our essence. Our conscious mind can be concentrating on other things when suddenly the memory of where we left our keys comes to mind. Our brain is so inefficient in its use of memory that the more we concentrate on where we left our keys, the harder it is for us to remember. But the essence's energy level is consistent and will fill in the gaps created by our imperfect brain. These mental quote-unquote gaps can vary depending on individual physical ability due to inherited genetic flaws of the brain. The more quote-unquote gaps there are, the more mentally disabled the person appears to be. Another example of quote-unquote voices in our head happens when we believe that a dead relative or another disembodied soul is speaking to us. When this happens, we are simply applying our reason to what we imagine could happen. We take actual memories of the person, as in the case of a relative, or imagine someone outside of ourselves and construct a conscious reality of the experience. The unpolluted mind of a child has considerably more quote-unquote gaps than an adult's, whose conscious mind is continually concentrating on many different current realities that use up all of the imperfect brain's energy potential. Therefore, invisible friends are a common experience for many children, as well as their ability to imagine more freely. This is caused by the essence filling in the gaps of their immature brain. Consequently, little children can pull memories out of their essence much easier than adults can. 25. Abnormal and normal thinking patterns. Some of us may appear mentally retarded, insane, schizophrenic, or otherwise emotionally disturbed. However, the dreams and imaginations of all imperfect humans, if acted upon without using our ability to reason, can seem very unrealistic to others. This is why the dreams we have in a subconscious state can be compiled experiences of unrelated incidents or even fantasies that would never happen in reality. A good example of this happens to many of us when we experience a nightmare. After watching a particularly disturbing movie, we may find ourselves in a dream that incorporates parts of the movie into a personal situation we might be experiencing in our current reality. Thus, we can be equally disturbed by the fantasy created in our mind by the unrelated events. Another example is the way we view a person who walks down the street talking into thin air. The only difference between this person and someone who does the exact same thing in private is the accepted standard that we have placed on the action. Although the act is the same in both situations, talking into thin air might be considered socially acceptable as the personal supplication of a pious person to his or her chosen deity, or the purposefully directed energy of thought used by one who is meditating. On the other hand, one who does the act in public is socially branded as quote-unquote schizophrenic. The accepted difference is in what we reason can be expected of those who talk into thin air. We have been taught and therefore use our reason to differentiate between allowable quote-unquote sane acts and those we consider quote-unquote insane acts. 26. The essence stores our memories and defines who we are. Many factors in our current experience lead us to a logical conclusion of the existence of the human essence. At this point, we need to use our best reason and imagination to take us into a realm of reality to which few humans have ever ventured with their conscious minds. We need to reach into the subconscious realm of dreams and creative and imaginative thinking. It is in this cognitive realm that we will come to a better understanding of how our essence is a crucial part of who we really are. All of us dream and all of us imagine. The problem is that when we do, we have no idea what we are dreaming or imagining is simply recollection of our experiences stored in our subconscious memory. It is this quote-unquote memory that stores all of our experiences, both in this world and in previous worlds, and defines us as individuals based on these past experiences. This is our essence. This, apart from whatever shape or size our body turns out to be, is who we really are. But before we can properly understand exactly what our human essence is and how it works, we need to consider how we think. To do this, and therefore be successful at learning the real truth, we must be willing to open our minds to possibilities that we have never considered before. 27. We cannot imagine what we have not experienced. In considering the human mind and how it thinks and processes information, the first thing we need to understand is that we cannot think or achieve something that we cannot reasonably conceive could happen. In fact, we cannot think or achieve anything unless we can first imagine that it could happen, or at least dream the possibility of it happening. And we cannot imagine or dream of something that we have not yet experienced because we would have no memory from which to draw out the things we are imagining or dreaming about. Therefore, everything that we think or believe that we can achieve, imagine, or dream, we have experienced before. This does not mean that we have experienced everything ourselves. Perhaps, instead, we have witnessed someone else having the experience. Imagining that we can be eaten by a wild animal doesn't mean that it had to have happened to us personally, only that the situation did take place as we saw it, and as the event was recorded as a memory from our own experience. For example, a little child has no fear of snakes until, through experience, the fear is embedded in the child's psyche, either personally or by being taught by someone whom the child trusts. The fears and phobias we possess at birth aren't necessarily genetically inherited from our parents. More likely, they are experiences recorded upon our essence. For this reason, long before they learn fear or acceptance from their parents, some infants are afraid of scary masks, while others are not. The infant might associate the non-human facial expression of a mask with something that caused a stressful situation in a past life experience. There is no way to know why some infants react differently to certain extrinsic stimuli than others, unless we were able to view all of the past memories stored in their individual essences. Because all of us have the extraordinary and exclusively human ability to imagine, it is no wonder that we are so disillusioned with each other. Other life forms do not have the ability to reason, which is the reason it is impossible for them to come up with the disjointed ways of dealing with their environment and each other as humans do. This is not to say that animals do not dream, because they do. but they do not imagine as we do because they cannot reason like a human being. 28. Our imagination separates us from animals. The fact that we can call upon ideas that are not a part of our current reality, imagine them, separates our thought processes and abilities from those of all other animals. However, it would be offensive to animal lovers to maintain the opinion that humans are far more intelligent and more humane than every other life form. It would be equally insulting to the other side to support the idea that we are not much different from animals, believing that our ancestors were once wild animals themselves. To take sides in this debate would mean either the alienation of the readers who receive much more companionship and love from their pets than they do from other humans, or the alienation of those who have had a friend or relative mauled or killed by the very same animals the victim once protected and adored. It is just as hard for the victim of an animal attack to see the similarities between animals and humans as it is for the victim of war or crime to see the differences. No matter how hard one might try to defend the animal lover and humble the human, the reality remains that no other animal uses reason, language, inquiry, wonder, longing, morality, aesthetics, creativity, imagination, and ambition as proficiently or as often as we do. There are those who ascribe to some species of animals the use of all of these attributes. Nevertheless, it takes a reasonable, inquisitive, wondering, longing, moral, creative, and imaginative mind to make the comparison make sense to those who do not see any similarity. Think about this. Ranchers keep tens of hundreds of pounds of pure horse and cattle muscle from escaping by simply installing a thin wire with a small amount of electricity running through it. The horses and cattle do not long to eat the greener grass on the other side of the electric fence, nor do they wonder or reason and inquire about the smell of distant fresh clover. But even if they did, they still do not have the capability, the creativity, or the imagination to realize that it would only take a simple step to break the flimsy boundary and become free, even after many years of experience of being corralled behind the fence. 29. Animals live by instinct without reason. Like us, animals must first experience something before they can conceive that it can be completed. However, they have no ability to reason because they have no way to access any experience that is not part of their current consciousness. Again, our ability to reason is our ability to conceive something in our mind by calling upon past experience, even an experience that might not be part of our current reality, and then find a way to accomplish it. To begin the process of reasoning, we must imagine that we can do something and then concentrate our mental abilities on finding a way to do it. For example, a chimpanzee that uses a stick to extract termites from a small, deep hole does not imagine, dream, or reason that it can be done. First, it is driven by the need to eat. Observing that termites sometimes come out of a hole and crawl up on nearby sticks, the primate learns, upon first seeing the action, that termites will cling to sticks. The animal then finds that picking up the stick with a few termites on it is an easier way to get a meal. The chimp next discovers that by putting the stick in the hole, it can extract termites that cling to the stick. However, The chimp didn't make this discovery until experience first taught it that putting the stick next to the hole, then into the hole, would produce the desired result. It might notice the termites climbing on nearby grass blades. When it pulls up the grass to put the termites in its mouth, it might discard the grass blade near the entrance of the termite nest. As other termites climb on the discarded blade of grass, the chimp realizes that this is an easy way to get a meal, and utilizes what it experiences to gain what it is after. However, no infant chimpanzee will ever pick up a blade of grass or a stick and put it into a termite hole unless the behavior has first been learned by observing an adult chimpanzee do the same first. If a human being were in the chimpanzee's position, he or she would subconsciously know that there is a much more efficient way to extricate the termites from their nest, without waiting to see them climb out onto a blade of grass or a stick. We would start imagining all sorts of ways to get them out, and then would use our reason to make what we imagine a reality. For this reason, it is easy to keep animals in captivity, but it is very, very difficult to keep humans likewise confined. There is not a human alive who could be kept in captivity by the same thin electrical wire that can keep 1,000 pounds of horse muscle from running free. 30. Animals have pre-programmed essences. Animals do have essences. However, these storage devices, as they have been described above, are fully programmed and do not allow for free will. During its lifetime, no other experience is recorded upon the animal essence. Nevertheless, the brain of the animal does record experience, just like the imperfect human brain. But the animal essence does not record any experience. The best word to describe what is recorded on an animal's essence is quote-unquote instinct. Let's use the relationship between a pet and a human being as an example to further illustrate the differences between human and animal essences. If Bridget develops a loving and endearing relationship with her dog Spot, when Bridget's essence is placed in her perfect body, she will be able to relive all of the experiences she once enjoyed with her beloved pet. Spot, on the other hand, will not go on to live another lifetime. Even if a perfect body was created for Spot, putting an animal's essence into the body would not allow Spot to recall any event it experienced with Bridget. Why? Because Spot's essence would be full with instinctual programming that makes Spot a dog. However, because the new Spot is the same type of dog that was the old Spot, its interactions with Bridget would be very similar. All animal essences are pre-programmed by advanced human beings who have the technology and expertise to do so. Animals are used to serve the needs of humans and maintain a balance in nature on imperfect worlds. This concept will be explained in much more detail in another chapter. Some might wonder if a dog's essence, once a dog dies, comes back to the body of another dog. In most cases, this would be true. However, because the animal's essence is programmable, a dog's essence could very well be reprogrammed to provide the instinctual behavior needed for a cat or a mouse. Advanced beings make these judgments. 31. Plants do not have an essence. Plants, on the other hand, do not have essences. Each plant carries within it the ability to reproduce itself infinitely, without any outside influence telling it what to do. In other words, the seed contains all of the plans for the plant's behavior. Nothing enters the plant's body upon birth, because a seed is not born, it grows. Advanced beings are also responsible for what plants and their seeds do and do not do. 32. Child prodigies and savants give evidence of previous existence. Although animals can only learn through behavioral conditioning, we see human instances where young children do extraordinary things that they have never seen an adult do in their current life experience. Amadeus Mozart, one example of many, could read and write music at a very young age, far beyond the capabilities of his musically inclined parents. How did he know how to do this? Somehow, Mozart's mind could conceive that it could be accomplished because he had stored memories of it being attained, whether they were memories of himself in another life or memories of being around others who had. Then, he imagined himself doing what he conceived, and with his abnormally advanced ability to reason, Mozart accomplished it without any influence except his own intrinsic motivation and desire to do so. But if he had never had any current life experiences wherein he was exposed to the learning that it takes to read and write music, how did he learn how to do it? The answer is that Mozart learned how to compose and recognize music as a child because he had experienced these abilities in one of his previous lifetimes. The memories from his past lives were recorded upon his essence, which in turn gave him his prodigious talent as a young child. Savants are likewise those who can do extraordinarily complicated things without any previous training or education. The examples of their seemingly supernatural powers are widely known and documented. Although they are inefficient at demonstrating normal human behavior in most other areas, their unique abilities have proven the great potential hidden in the human brain. But how do they do what they do? Who taught them these things? Why can't a quote-unquote normal brain do these things? Most savants are mentally impaired so that it is virtually impossible for them to reason, that is, to make a conscious effort to rationally solve a problem by using their own imagination based on their experience. The ability to do the extraordinary things that they do comes from what is already recorded in their eternal memory banks, the essence. It is an involuntary, subconscious expression of something they have already experienced in the past, before their current mortal existence. There has been a great amount of research effort put into attempting to understand the brain structure and mental capacity of a savant compared to that of a quote-unquote normal brain. Science has yet to explain this phenomenon and easily concedes that it is far from solving the mystery of the human brain and its full potential. And until science understands the essence, it will never solve this mystery. It should now make sense why a human savant can do extraordinary things with the brain that quote-unquote normal people cannot. It is not that most people don't have the same capabilities of all savants also recorded on their essence, but they do not have the proper brain alignment to access these past experiences, or rather, their imperfect brain gets in their way. A savant's brain is an anomaly, and although the way it functions shows the brain's potential, without the rest of it functioning correctly, the individual has difficulty optimizing the human experience and living in a society that requires learned, social, and other mental skills. 33. We recognize beauty because of past experience. The recognition of beauty is further evidence of unconscious memories stored in our essence. Let's say that a blind person should not know the difference between a non-attractive person and an attractive one. For those blind people who regain their sight, why is it that they can perceive beauty seemingly instantaneously? What if they regained their sight and everyone around them had a facial deformity? If a beautiful person stood next to one with a deformed face, would the blind person choose the beautiful face as the one that is accepted by all sighted people as being quote-unquote beautiful? Or would the newly sighted person not be able to tell the difference? The fact is, they would be able to tell the difference, just as newborn infants, who also have very limited visual imagery experience, can. Scientific research has shown that babies look longer at faces that are rated as attractive by adults than at faces rated as unattractive. Excluding parents, babies respond differently to strangers based on the stranger's physical attractiveness. Toddlers who are more involved in play show more positive effect toward an attractive stranger than an unattractive one. Likewise, when the stranger is unattractive, they withdraw from the stranger more often than an attractive one. Infants bring an understanding of what is and what isn't beautiful from somewhere other than their current experience. They make the assessment based on subconscious memories stored on their essence. 34. Laughter and humor are our most distinguishing attributes. The one thing that cannot be attributed to any animal in any way, and which prominently certifies the extreme difference between animals and humans, and further substantiates the existence of the human essence, is the sense of humor that causes laughter. Although we can train a chimpanzee to smile and make the expressions of laughter, they do not, nor does any other animal, have the ability to experience the full effect of a hearty laugh or a sincere smile. Laughter is a reaction to a failure to meet an expected and reasonable outcome. Only humans experience laughter because they are the only ones who have expectations. For example, it is not funny to see someone walk down a sidewalk and step around a discarded banana peel. This is what a reasonable mind would expect a person to do. But if a person steps on the banana peel and slips, now that is funny. The brain reacts to these ironies by releasing a hormone similar to adrenaline. Hormones are catalysts that affect other chemical changes at the cellular level, which cause muscles to contract and glands to produce what the body needs. The reaction starts in the brain and results in the compulsory effects of laughter, which is the emission of forced air from the lungs passing over the tightened muscles of the voice box, the shaking of the diaphragm, and in some cases, the flow of tears. The release of the hormone stimulates the effects of laughter. But what causes the reaction that releases the hormone? Never known before, it is caused by the energy levels of the human essence, and is the trait that distinguishes the human being from all other animals. Although laughter can be observed and measured, science has not answered what actually causes it and why it only occurs in the human species. It is proven that animals also have similar brains and produce similar hormones to humans. But a chimpanzee, the animal proven to be the closest relative to the human, would never be seized with genuine laughter upon witnessing a failure to meet an expected and reasonable outcome. Whereas all chimpanzees make similar noises and grunts, the way humans express laughter is as unique as each individual is. This exclusivity comes from the uniqueness of each human brain, each human voice box, and each human diaphragm, which produces a distinctive and recognizable laugh for each of us. What science has not effectively studied, and cannot study with its existing rudimentary tools, is the chemical change that takes place just before the reaction occurs that produces a laugh. A quote-unquote chemical change is the effect of one element interacting with another. For the sake of simplicity, we will define a quote-unquote chemical and a quote-unquote element as the same substance. With what we now know about our essence, we can understand that the quote-unquote chemical change is created by the exchange of energy levels between our brain and our essence. As mentioned, laughter is controlled by the essence reacting with our brain. It is this essence that causes the chemical change to the prefrontal cortex, which produces the hormone that causes the body to perform the laugh. As laughter is the reaction to a failure to meet an expected and reasonable outcome, it is the essence that provides the memory of what is expected and reasonable. 35. Children laugh and smile at monkeys. An infant smiles and reacts to certain stimuli that would not make a monkey, which does not have a human essence, thus no human experience, react in the same way. The smile is a reaction to an experience that the essence already has stored, is able to recall, and then react to with the brain. The reason why people smile and laugh less than others is not necessarily that their essence is flawed, but their imperfect brain might be. The main reason why some might laugh at a person slipping on a banana peel, while another gasps in concern, has to do with what is stored in the essence. If there is no previous record of a person slipping on a banana and hurting themselves, then the quote-unquote failure to meet the expectation is confirmed and the individual laughs. On the other hand, if an experience is recorded that a person was hurt slipping on a banana peel, then there is an expected outcome, thus producing a reaction that generates the effects of concern. A monkey wouldn't react either way. Summary. We laugh because we are human. We are human because we possess a human essence that no other life form has. Other life forms, such as all animals, insects, etc., have an essence, but theirs is always pre-programmed, thus eliminating the possibility of free will. Our individuality is defined by our unique essence. It makes us who we are and allows us to answer the question of why we exist. In possession of this essence, our abilities are limitless and our potential immeasurable. Because we have an essence, we are motivated to ponder and wonder about our origin, our past, and our future. We go to school, read books, develop mathematical theorems, and then try to solve them. We celebrate life through birthdays and holidays. We invent ways of answering our questions, but can only accept the answers as real truth if they match what is recorded in our essence. Our essence also gives us the moral foundation that should separate us from all other animals and make us humane and civilized. It is the true reality of the human being. Without stored experiences, memories, we would have no expectations. Therefore, we would not know how to be human, nor would we be compelled to act on our humanity. A newborn infant can be placed in an environment where it has never seen another human smile or laugh, and yet it will still exhibit these uniquely human attributes without being shown any example of how to do them. An infant smiles and laughs without any current life experience because it obviously has the experience and know-how to do so recorded on the human essence that entered its body upon birth. In contrast, if an infantile chimpanzee is placed in an environment where humans laugh and smile, no effort on its part will be made to mimic the human action. The chimpanzee will not smile or laugh during its lifetime. Now that we know that a sense of humor is something unique to the human being, and that a hearty laugh and a pleasant smile are reactions to previously recorded experiences, the next question that must follow is, where did the experiences for the recorded memories of the human essence come from?